Most people think staying calm in a fight is a personality trait. Either you're cool under pressure or you're not. That's wrong. Panic in a fight is not a character flaw. It's a biological response, and like any biological response, it can be trained. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what happens to your body the moment a fight starts, why it destroys your ability to think and move, and the specific methods that actually fix it, not motivational advice, actual techniques used by fighters at the highest level. The moment a fight starts, or even the moment you sense one coming, your brain triggers something called the sympathetic nervous system response. Most people know it as fight or flight. Your heart rate spikes. Your breathing becomes fast and shallow. Your pupils dilate. Blood gets pulled away from your extremities and into your large muscle groups. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, technique recall, and spatial awareness, gets significantly less blood flow. In other words, the exact moment you need to think clearly, your brain is actively working against you. Now here's the important part. This doesn't just happen to beginners. This happens to professional fighters. The difference isn't that experienced fighters don't feel it. The difference is that they've built a system that overrides it. And that system has 3 layers: breathing, focus, and exposure. Let's go through each one. Breathing is the only part of your autonomic nervous system you can control consciously. That's not a motivational statement, that's anatomy. When you control your breath, you directly activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the system that counters panic. Your heart rate drops. Blood returns to your prefrontal cortex. Your thinking is clear. The method that works fastest is called the physiological sigh. It's 2 short inhales through the nose, followed by a long exhale through the mouth. Inhale, inhale again. Long exhale. That double inhale fully inflates your lungs, which triggers a faster parasympathetic response than a single inhale. Military and emergency personnel use a version of this exact method. Now, you can't stop in the middle of a fight to do this, but you can do it in the seconds before it starts, in the pocket between exchanges, in the clinch, in any brief pause. The other breathing habit to build is exhaling on your strikes. Every time you throw, exhale. This does 2 things. It keeps your breathing rhythm from breaking, and it prevents you from holding your breath, which spikes your heart rate faster than almost anything else. If you're in sparring and you notice you've gone quiet, no sound on punches, no breathing, that's your first sign that panic is setting in. Fix the breathing first. Everything else follows. The second layer is what you focus on. When people panic in a fight, their attention scatters. They're thinking about the last thing that went wrong, what the other person might do next, how they look, whether they're going to lose. Their mind is everywhere except the present moment. High-level fighters don't think less, they think about the right things. Here's what to narrow your focus to. 1 target, not their whole body. 1 specific target. Their chin, their body, their lead leg. Pick 1 thing and commit to it. This sounds simple, but it changes everything. It gives your brain a concrete task instead of an open-ended threat to process. Their chest, not their eyes. Beginners look at the face or the fists, which both cause telegraphing and delayed reaction. Looking at the chest lets you see full body movement in your peripheral vision. The shoulders load before the punch. The hips turn before the kick. You react to what's actually moving, not where you're afraid to get hit. Your next action, not the last one. The second you get hit or make a mistake, your brain wants to process it. That's the moment most people spiral. Train yourself to drop it instantly and ask 1 question. What's my next move? Just 1. Not a combination, not a game plan adjustment, 1 move. This kind of narrow task-based focus is what sports psychologists call the process focus. It keeps your prefrontal cortex engaged and your anxiety from filling the gap. The first 2 methods work, but there's a ceiling to how far breathing and focus can take you. If your nervous system has never actually experienced the stress of a real fight, that's where exposure comes in. Your nervous system learns through experience. The more you put yourself in high-pressure situations in training, the more calibrated your threat response becomes. What felt like maximum danger the first time becomes manageable the 5th time. That's not just confidence, it's neuroscience. Your amygdala, the part of the brain that triggers the panic response, literally becomes less reactive to a stimulus the more times it processes it without catastrophic outcome. This means the quality of your sparring matters more than the quantity of your technique drilling. Here's how to use exposure strategically. Spar people who are better than you. Not so much better that you just survive, but enough better that you're genuinely uncomfortable. Controlled discomfort in training is the closest proxy to real fight stress you can manufacture. Use stress inoculation drills. These are training drills designed to elevate your heart rate and put you under pressure before sparring even starts. Sprint for 30 seconds, then immediately spar. Do 10 burpees, put the gloves on. You're forcing your nervous system to learn how to function while the panic response is already active. Don't always train fresh. Most people train when they're rested and sharp. Occasionally, train when you're tired. Tired sparring mimics the later rounds of a real fight, where calm breaks down most. If you can stay composed, exhausted in the gym, you can stay composed in the moment that matters. Everything I've said so far applies directly to sparring and competition. But in a street or self-defense situation, there's one additional layer. The stress is different, and it's worse. In sparring, your brain knows the rules. It knows there's a referee, that your opponent has gloves, that there's a mat to fall on. That context alone reduces the panic response significantly. In a real situation, none of those anchors exists. The adrenaline dump is faster, harder, and more disorienting. You may experience tunnel vision, auditory exclusion, time distortion, or loss of fine motor control. The breathing method becomes even more critical here. Before anything else, before you decide whether to fight or create distance, one, physiological sigh. It takes less than 3 seconds, and it buys your prefrontal cortex back online enough to make a decision instead of just reacting. The second thing, have a simple default. Not a full system, not a game plan, 1 or 2 things you've drilled so many times they require no thought. Under extreme stress, the complex technique disappears. Simple, high-repetition movements survive. Whatever those are for you, a clinch, a straight punch, a takedown, know your default and trust it. Calm in a fight is not something you either have or you don't. It's a skill with a structure. Control your breathing to override the panic response, narrow your focus to stay in the present, and build your nervous system's tolerance through real pressure in training. Most people go their whole martial arts career without training any of these deliberately. The ones who do those are the fighters who look different when it gets hard. Start with the breathing. Everything else builds from there.